All right, let's go ahead and move on then to discuss the course section record and the data elements that are involved in course section reporting in CALPADS. These again are the notable points that we want to ensure that you understand with regards to the CRSE or course section enrollment file type. You'll need to coordinate again with human resources and with school site staff in obtaining the relevant data for the course section enrollment file and in ensuring an accurate and timely submission in CALPADS for Fall 2. But in addition to the Fall 2 mainstays of human resources and school site staff, you'll also need to consult with curriculum specialists to determine course standards and alignments. Before you begin submitting data to CalPads, you'll need to determine what classes to report course section enrollment records for in Fall 2. And you'll need to determine or locate the teacher of record for those courses. If there is no permanent hire for a class, the teacher of record may be a substitute teacher. And in this case, you would report the substitute teaching the class on Census Day. In the course section enrollment file, you would assign the appropriate state course code for the class to the substitute teacher of record. You should report all academic core and non core courses, special education, home and hospital, distance learning, and independent study courses. Student assistant courses, in which a student receives grade or credits, homeroom or study hall, and college courses are optional. Do not report lunch periods, free periods, summer school, or before and after school programs. When reporting courses, you'll need to determine the appropriate state course code for each class. We'll cover more on choosing the correct state course code in a couple of slides. College and dual credit courses are reported in CalPads. However, college professors are not required to have SEIDs. So a generic SEID of all nines is used in course section records in these cases. You are able to use a generic SEID of all nines when the teacher of record for a course is not employed by your LEA. However, use of a generic SEID of all nines will automatically trigger a misassignment in CalSAS. You should report courses taught by push in or pull out teachers or resource teachers to those teachers if they are the teachers of record. You should report RSP teachers providing support instruction, again with state course code 9231, special education support resource specialist program. This indicates support instruction rather than co-teaching roles, again as was standard in past academic years. And these teachers are reported with a job classification code of 27 in their staff assignment files. If reporting multiple teachers to a single course, you would populate the multiple teacher code and submit two or more course section records with the same class ID and different SEIDs in order to report multiple teachers. It's important that we're aware of the course attributes to course section enrollment records so that we know where to input data to resolve findings from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or CTC. You will need to determine which course attributes are used to report special education, distance learning, English learner services, and college level courses. The valid code combinations document is particularly useful when inputting course attributes into course section enrollment files or when resolving errors involving course attributes. If you're reporting middle school core courses or courses in a middle school course setting, you will need to zero in on the middle school core setting indicator. In more detail, if the departmentalized course standards grade level range is populated as mid, meaning middle grades 5 through 8, you must also populate the middle school core course indicator to indicate whether the course is being taught as part of a middle school course setting. In Fall 2, you will report both self-contained courses and departmentalized courses that are occurring on Census Day. Self-contained courses are courses in which teachers are providing instruction in all subjects to a group of students in the class all day. And self-contained courses are at home at the elementary school level. Departmentalized courses are courses in which a teacher is providing primary instruction in one subject to multiple groups of students throughout the day, and departmentalized courses are most at home at the high school level. With regards to departmentalized courses, if Census Day occurs when some enrolled students are in tracks that are off session, the Fall 2 submission should include the course sections and the students enrolled in those course sections scheduled on the first day that the tracks are in session after Census Day. All course sections that provide academic content, English learner services, special education, as well as courses described as core subjects, electives, or push out and pull in are required to be reported. State course codes are grouped by content area, with courses in the 1000 series or range representing self contained or multi subject courses for kindergarten through sixth grade levels and independent study. State course codes in the 7,000 to 8,999 series or range are used by high school LEAs to indicate career technical education or CTE courses. And state course codes in the 9,000 series are departmentalized courses with specific content areas, whether core or non core. And this includes subjects like math, science, and foreign language courses. So how do we pick the correct state course code? And this is the question that really brings assignment monitoring into play. When you're reporting the content of your courses, and this is being compared to the credentials that a staff member has, you want to make sure that your curriculum department is correctly populating the course code. It shouldn't fall to you directly as a data coordinator, but unfortunately, sometimes it does. So it's important to know how to collect the correct state course code. Before submitting any data to CALPADS, you want to determine the content of the course. Each specific state course code has defined content, and you'll need to read the CALPADS code sets document to determine the exact definition of each course code with regards to content. You also need to reference the CALPADS valid code combinations document to map these state course codes. You'll be required to report course standards in two fields, the grade level standards and the content standards. You'll want to understand the standards used to develop prior to reporting data to CalPads. Do not select a course based on a teacher's credentials or a grade level. Standards used must be consistent across all instructors at a grade level. And of more particular recent importance is identifying the method of online instruction. Many courses have been provided online or with a hybrid model in recent years, and you want to ensure that you indicate distance learning when you report these courses. And there are three types of online instruction for you to indicate. Learner led, facilitated, and instructor led. And the CalPADS code sets document and valid code combinations document are invaluable when determining the method of online instruction. On this slide, we've listed 5 resources that are instrumental to the Fall 2 CalPADS submission, and they are the Retired Course Mapping Guide, the CalPADS file specifications, the valid code combinations, the CalPADS code sets, and the appropriate credentials for CalPADS course codes. The Retired Course Mapping provides a list of course codes that were retired during a codes transition in the 2018 to 19 academic year, and the associated new course codes that were instated in the 2019 to 20 academic year. This document is old, but it's helpful when determining the correct and up-to-date course codes to use. And you can find this document on the CDE webpage for CalPADS system documentation. The CalPADS file specifications, or CFS, provides data submission requirements at the individual field or file specification level, as well as information on CalPADS file processing methods. When populating individual fields or when troubleshooting errors that involve individual fields, the CalPADS file specifications is instrumental. And you'll be able to find this again on the CDE webpage for CalPADS system documentation. The valid code combinations document lists codes that can only be used in specific combination with other fields or with other data elements as enforced by validation errors. And this is particularly instrumental in Fall 2 when reporting staff assignments and course section records. The CalPADS code sets document provides the current coded values for coded value data elements in CalPADS. This will be useful when populating any field that requires a coded value or when troubleshooting errors that involve coded values. And you can find the CalPADS code sets document again on the CDE webpage for CalPADS system documentation. And then finally, the appropriate credentials for CalPADS course codes cannot be found on the CDE webpage for CalPADS system documentation, unlike the other resources listed on the slide here. The appropriate credentials for CalPADS course codes is a CTC webpage, which includes a table intended to support credential analysts in determining which authorizations are required to teach which course assignments. And we do have links to all of these resources on this slide in the slide deck, which I hope we've all been able to locate and access at this point. Okay, on screen here is the valid code combinations document or specific screenshots from the valid code combinations document. And the valid code combinations document is vital when doing the section enrollment submission. It's vital for mapping courses to content areas, subcategories, and grade level ranges. The course group master combos tab will provide the state course code, name, and content area assignment. And here you're able to determine which course content area codes belong to which course group state codes. You'll also be able to determine appropriate grade level ranges for courses based on the course group state code in the course group state student grade level range tab. So that's this tab here. Okay, on this screen is the course information section of the course section enrollment file. Again, this is a screenshot from online maintenance. The field labeled 2 here is the Departmentalized course standards grade level range code. And this is one of the fields that you use to populate the standards for a course. When populating this field, the value should be based on the standards grade level of the course content and not the grade levels of the students enrolled in the course. For example, a remedial math course may be taught in high school, but have a course standards grade level range of mid, meaning middle grades 5 through 8. And codes here could include ELM indicating elementary grades K through 4, mid indicating middle grades 5 through 8, SEC indicating secondary grades 9 through 12, or NOT indicating not applicable. And then next, the field labeled 1 is the content standards alignment code. And this is a coded value representing the standards that were used to develop the content of the course. And coded values in the content standards alignment code field include 1, current content standards, and code 1 is a coded value representing that a course is aligned with the most current academic standards. For example, Common Core or Next Generation Science standards. The content standards alignment code could also equal 2 prior content standards, and that's a coded value representing that a math, English, science, or history course is aligned with a version of the academic standards that was adopted prior to the most current academic standards, for example, the 1998 standards. Or the content standards alignment code could be populated with 3 not content standards aligned. And code 3 in the content standards alignment code field would represent that a course is not aligned with prior or current academic standards, or that there are no existing standards. And if a course is not standards aligned, or if a course has no applicable standards, then LEAs should use not standards aligned or not applicable in the content standards alignment code field. If the departmentalized course standards grade level range code, the code labeled 2 here is equals NOT, so not applicable, then the CRS content standards alignment code, the field labeled 1 here, must equal 3, not content standards aligned. All right, now let's talk about how CALPADS calculates average class sizes. On this slide are both the course information and course section information sections of the course section enrollment file. The class ID field, that's the field labeled 1 on this slide. And this is used to determine how groups of students form physical classes, regardless of course content. And the data from the class ID field are used to determine average class sizes and student to teacher ratio. Note that for independent study, class size is irrelevant, and courses offered via independent study are not included in any of the class size calculations. The class ID is only required on the course section enrollment file in the Fall 2 submission, and these data are made publicly available. The average class size data are made publicly available through DataQuest and the School Accountability Report Card, or SARC. All right, these are the different course attributes that would be submitted in the course enrollment record for Fall 2. And it's important that we're aware of these attributes to course section records so that we know where in data population to input data to resolve findings from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or CTC. And the first attribute to be mindful of is the Course content area subcategory code. That's the field labeled 1 here. And the CTC will use this code to determine whether a subject area is required in certain content areas. The CDE will also use this code for detailed course content. The second attribute to be mindful of is the AP or IB course cross-reference field or cross-reference code, which will allow you to designate a course as both AP or IB and CTE. The third attribute to be mindful of is the middle school core course indicator, which the CTC will use to determine appropriate authorizations for middle school core courses that use the middle school core setting in grades 5 through 8. The fourth attribute to be mindful of is the local assignment option code, which the CTC will use to determine whether a local assignment option is appropriate for the assignment. The fifth attribute to be mindful of is the online course instruction type code, and the CTC will use this data to determine if a course requires an authorized credentialed teacher and to determine if the assigned teacher has the appropriate authorizations or credentials. The online instruction type code has become quite relevant in recent history since the COVID-19 pandemic. And the sixth and final attribute to be mindful of is the high quality CTE course indicator. And this indicates whether a course is led by a credentialed CTE instructor. And again, with this slide, it's important to be aware of these attributes to course section records so that you know where in data population to input data to resolve findings from the CTC. And you can find more detailed definitions and validation requirements for each of these data elements in the CALPADS file specifications or CFS documents. And we've provided a link to the CFS a couple of slides back here. All right, we did mention the middle school core setting, so let's zero in on that and discuss it in more detail because there has been some confusion around the middle school core setting in the past. There are many different types of block schedules that exist, and block core schedules are permitted provided that student groups are cored into 2 or more periods within the same day. Schedules cannot be cored across multiple days. Some middle grade teaching assignments may be in a core setting, which is an option that blends the self-contained and departmentalized classroom settings. Education code defines a core setting as a setting in which a teacher is assigned on the basis of a credential that authorizes service in either a authorizes service in a self-contained classroom, and this can be either a multi-subject credential or a standard elementary teaching credential. So that's the first criteria. We have a teacher with either a multi-subject or a standard elementary teaching credential, a self-contained credential. The second criteria for the middle school core setting is that the teacher teaches 2 or more subjects to a group of students in the same day. And then the third criteria for a middle school core setting is that the student population for those classes remains substantially the same. So a middle school core setting is a setting in which a teacher has a multi-subject or standard elementary teaching credential and teaches 2 or more subjects to the same group of students during the same day. It's important to note that education code does not specify which subjects may be taught in a core setting or whether the subjects can be academic or elective. Therefore, any 2 or more subjects may be cored. In addition to this, classes in a core setting do not have to be consecutive periods of the day, but the students in the core setting must remain the same. And core assignments are only available in middle grades 5 through 8. And we do have a couple of examples to illustrate middle school core setting on the slide here. If we look at the example on the left, the color-coded teacher schedule, and if we look in particular at the top row of that example, we'll see that first period is PE, taught to a group of 7th grade students, and second period is English language arts, taught to that same group of 7th grade students. This is a single teacher schedule, and we can assume that they have either a standard elementary or multi-subject teaching credential. And so periods 1 and 2 are cored or are in a middle school core setting. Similarly, period 4 is PE, taught to a group of 8th grade students. And period 5 is English language arts, taught to that same group of 8th grade students. So period 4 and 5 are cored or in a middle school core setting. That top row shows us consecutive periods of the day with 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 being cored, but they don't need to be consecutive. So the second row gives us an example of a non-consecutive core setting. And on the second row there, we see that first period is PE, taught to a group of 7th grade students, and fifth period is English Language Arts, taught to that same group of 7th grade students. So period 1 and 5 on this schedule are cord. Additionally, period 2 is PE, taught to a group of 8th grade students, and period 7 is English Language Arts, taught to that same group of 8th grade students. And so period 2 and 7 are cord. If we look at the example on the right-hand side of the slide, this is a different format for a teacher schedule, and this is a teacher schedule for a single day. And on this single day teacher schedule, we see that period 3 is CCSS math, taught to a group of 28 sixth grade students. And period 4 is science, taught to that same group of 28 sixth grade students. And so period 3 and 4 are cord, and this schedule is helpfully labeled the group of 28 sixth grade students here as core group A. It can be quite helpful to label your student groups if you are using the middle school course setting at your LEA. Similarly, period 5 is CCSS math, taught to a different group of 27 sixth grade students. And period 6 is science, taught to that group of 27 sixth grade students. And so period 5 and 6 are cord, and the schedule has labeled this group of 27 sixth grade students as core group B. So that is the middle school course setting in a nutshell here. Let's move on to discuss distance learning for a slide here, and you can find the information in this slide in Flash 187. And this slide shows a user who's in the process of populating a distance learning course. The distance learning indicator is the field labeled 1 here. And the distance learning indicator indicates whether course section instruction was delivered via distance learning, either full-time or part-time, in either a synchronous or an asynchronous format. And then the online instruction type code, that's the field labeled 2 here, represents the type of online instruction being delivered in a distance learning context. And this is required if the distance learning indicator is populated with a Y or with a yes. And there are 3 different online course instruction type codes, and the different options here, the 3 options are labeled with 3 on the screenshot on the slide here. The first is Instructor Led. This indicates that an instructor provides all of the instruction associated with the online content. The course section content may be provided or may be based on an online program or based on instructional materials such as a textbook, but the instruction is solely or primarily provided in a synchronous manner. This means that the teacher and the students are in different locations, and the instruction is provided by the teacher to the students in real time at the same time for the full or some portion of the school day. The synchronous instruction may occur through various computer or communications technologies, such as Zoom meetings or conference calls, and some portion of instruction may be provided in an asynchronous manner, but the majority or the primary instruction should be provided in a synchronous manner. The next option for an online course instruction type code is facilitated, and this indicates that the learner sets the pace for their own instruction, and a facilitator monitors progress and provides support. The course section content here may be based on an online program or other instructional materials like textbooks again, but it's solely provided in an asynchronous manner. And this means that the teacher and students are in different locations and that the teacher does not provide any instruction in real time, except the teachers may interact with students in real time to monitor assignments or provide content support and feedback. And examples of a facilitated course include a teacher providing assignments that students complete at their own pace, and the teacher monitoring progress and providing support through emails or phone calls. And then the final online course instruction type code that can be submitted is learner led. And this indicates that the learner sets the pace of their instruction and that the content and instruction are provided solely by an online application. LEA should continue to use this code when the content and instruction are provided solely, again, by the online application. The online content system must provide all instruction and issue grades for the course in order to use the learner led online instruction type code. All right, and that concludes our discussion of distance learning. English Learner Services now. And the Education Service Code, that's the code or the field labeled 1 here. And this is used to indicate the English language services that are being provided to students in a course. And the coded values are listed here. They are primary language instruction and English language development instruction, designated English language development instruction only, integrated English language development instruction only, uh, designated and integrated but no primary language instruction, no English learner services, and other English learner services. Report 2.4, English Learner Education Services, student count unduplicated, provides the total number of English learners at each school. And of those English learners, the English Learner Education Service that they are receiving in the course sections they're enrolled in. Students receiving multiple English Learner Services are reported in only one English Learner Service based on hierarchy rules. And the CDE may monitor schools if they report students as receiving no English Learner Services, or if they use code 5 here. Human resources and program staff should ensure that teachers teaching courses with English Learner Services have the appropriate credentials and authorizations to provide the specific English learner services. And the data are provided to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing to monitor whether teachers hold the appropriate authorizations to provide these specified English learner services. All right, let's talk about college courses now. This slide is not as relevant to LEAs with only elementary and middle school enrollments, but it can be very helpful to LEAs with high school enrollments. For LEAs with high school enrollments, you are able to report college courses in course section records in one of two ways. You are able to submit a course section record with one of the state course codes in the 9,000 range that are listed on the left-hand side of the slide and indicate a college credit course, or you are able to use a CTE state course code in the 7,000 to 8,999 range, along with the course instructional level code populated with either a 23 indicating college credit only or a 24 indicating dual credit. So those are the two ways that we're able to report college credit courses. We either use a college credit course code in the 9,000 series, or we use a CTE state course code, and we use a course instructional level code of either 23 or 24. When we report our college credit courses, though, we are going to be reporting courses that are taught by college professors who are not required to have SEIDs. And so that is one of the appropriate uses of a generic SEID of all nines in course section records in Fall 2. Using a generic SEID of all nines will generate a predetermined exception in CalSAS of a vacancy, and a vacancy equals a misassignment. So using a generic SEID of all nines will result in a misassignment. There are appropriate uses of a generic SEID of all nines this academic year, though, and they are first for those learner-led courses, those self-directed online courses, the courses that are taught solely by an online application program. Those courses should be reported with course section records using a generic SEID of all nines. Again, as we just stated, courses taught by college professors who are not required to have SEIDs and are not employed by your LEA should be reported with course section records using a generic SEID of all nines. And then courses taught by teachers who are paid by another LEA. So teachers who are employed by a different LEA but are teaching a course at your LEA or for one of your students should be reported in course section records using a generic SEID of all nines. There is a caveat here, though. If a course is being taught by a teacher who's paid by another LEA or employed by another LEA, and you are still able to track down the actual or real SEID of that teacher, you should still report the real actual SEID of the teacher rather than a generic SEID of all nines. And that will help you to avoid automatic exceptions and misassignments in CalSAS. Okay, there was an update to these CRSE records, and in particular, an update that was relevant to CTE course section records with field 9.27. The CTE course section provider code. And this code is now no longer being used and is a filler field in CalPADS. Any data populated in this field will result in the file being rejected on input this academic year. The field formerly allowed LEAs to indicate whether the district or regional occupation center or program was the funding provider for CTE courses. And so but we are no longer collecting that information. The CDE is no longer collecting information on the funding sources for CTE courses. And so the CTE course section provider code field is now a filler field that will generate errors upon input if populated. There was another change to course section records involving CTE courses this academic year as well. And this is a recategorization of CTE course code content areas. The content areas in course section enrollment records is used by the CDE for dashboard reporting. So that's the kind of impact of this change. Formerly CTE state course codes, again, those are course codes in the 7,000 to 8,999 range. They all listed career technical education as the content area, but they'll now be categorized as more specific subject areas, for example, computer education or music. Other courses in the 9,000 range may be categorized as well or recategorized as well so that they are in more accurate categories. And this will become relevant in quite a few of the supporting reports and a couple of the aggregate reports in fall 2 as well. The relevant reports are all listed on the slide here. This change will allow LEAs to more appropriately reflect all of the courses and their content areas on DataQuest, as well as the California School Dashboard. And since the content area is derived from the course group master combos tab of the valid code combinations document, there's no action required on the part of LEAs except to ensure that you are using the most up-to-date valid code combinations document. So you should be using a 16.x version of the valid code combinations document in order to ensure that this change has been accounted for.